Hi, I'm standing at the edge of the Sea of Galilee. Just to my left is a building known as the Primacy of Peter, the chapel that commemorates John chapter 21. The story goes that after Jesus' resurrection, that he returned and had a conversation with Peter, probably in front of the other disciples, at least in front of the disciple that was beloved, known as John. And John records in John chapter 21 that Jesus said to Peter no less than 3 times, "Do you love me?" 2 times Peter answered, "Lord, you know I do." But the 3rd time, I think Peter started to get it. Back in Matthew chapter 16, Jesus at Caesarea Philippi asked Peter and the disciples, "Who am I?" Peter was the first disciple to declare on planet Earth, "You are the Christ." And then in Matthew 17, he went up on the Mount of Transfiguration. But just prior to that, in Matthew 15, Peter walked on this very sea. He failed, he fell in, but he's the only human we're aware of that actually walked for any length of time on water like Jesus. And so here they are, full circle. Jesus is asking Peter, "Do you love me?" Peter's saying he does, and then he realizes that Jesus has something greater, and so he finally says in the 3rd time, "Jesus, you know all things." And that's when Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep." And that's when Peter agreed to become who Jesus had called him to be. This is where the beginning of Peter's ministry, his calling, this is where the end of Jesus' ministry to Peter comes to a conclusion. Jesus then in John chapter 21 describes the way he's going to die. We know from church history that Peter was crucified upside down on a cross, more than likely in Rome, and as tradition would have it, that's where his life came to a conclusion, sometime around the time of Paul's conclusion of his life as well. And what's interesting, Peter, as he is finding this out, wants to know what's going to happen to John, because Peter's always up in other people's business, as you see even after the resurrection and the ascension of Jesus Christ. And so Jesus turns to Peter and says, "Don't worry about him." And he gives the famous 2 words, "Follow me." And John in his pericope, in the narrative, brings us full circle. The first conversation that Jesus had with Peter was, "Follow me." The last one he had was, "Follow me." It is the decision that Peter had to make, the last one that he needed to make every day of his life. It's the same decision that we have to make every day of our lives. Will we follow Jesus today, tomorrow, for the rest of our lives? I just want to encourage you, standing in this very gorgeous, beautiful area, serene, peaceful surroundings, it's just a reminder that Jesus was faithful to Peter in spite of all of his failings. And even if you've made huge mistakes in your life like Peter, and I find myself relating to Peter often in the New Testament, Jesus wants to remind us that every day we have a decision to make. Regardless of whether we followed him yesterday, regardless of whether we're following him well today, each day we make the decision, will we follow Jesus? And Peter, by his life, proved by the end of it, yes, I will. And he made Jesus proud, and he magnified the gospel throughout the earth. And so we stand here at the Primacy of Peter to be reminded, be faithful every day, follow Jesus. God bless.